Reclaiming Timeless Ways, another show underway. Mike Traster, Simon Fuller, glad to have you alongside of us. And Mike, you always get to kind of lay out the foundation for this conversation. What are we going to be talking about?
How to unintentionally kill a company.
Uh-oh, you're coming after me?
Yeah. No.
Okay, you've got my intrigue up. How do I?
Never.
I'm wondering where you're even at here. How to unintentionally kill a company? Tell me there's always a backstory. I hear your title, and then I kind of listen to you open up, and I'm like, okay, where was Mike's mind at the day he thought this up?
There was this wonderful restaurant that I
Okay.
used to love to go to in Spokane. It was just very comfortable. Big,
Sure.
Kind of a halfway big place. Probably seated 150, 200 people.
Some pretty good size.
Yeah. But it was just warm and cozy and friendly. Loved going there with my son. Went on a bunch of dates there. And I'll go by there one day and it's out of business. Somebody bought it. Less than a year later, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, it's out of business.
Okay.
What the hell is it? So I start looking one day. Well, that street, Francis Boulevard, has a cement barrier in the middle of the street. So half the traffic on that street couldn't access the restaurant unless you went
Easily, so they couldn't just turn off and in.
No.
They'd
Yeah,
have to do a loop
exactly.
around. Yeah.
right in traffic, and it was a pain in the ass because it was very busy there.
Yeah.
And so that cut their business flow, let's be very conservative and say 20, 30%.
Okay.
Made it hard for them to pay their rent. And that happened several times. It was pretty obvious that A, somebody was charging too much rent, which meant that they weren't getting any income because they charged too much. Or B, the traffic flow was a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, so it was one of those two or both. Word of mouth. You know, the way people get treated is what they say.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is we talk about this in the marketing side often. Word of mouth is the most believable kind of advertising. So be careful what people are saying.
Right.
In other words, Mike, it's not just about your restaurant example. How good was that food? Were they greeted when they walked in the door? How was the wait staff? Was the pricing fair for that meal? Was it clean in your establishment? I mean, there are a lot of factors because bad word of mouth will travel 10 times faster than good word of mouth.
Yes.
So if I'm walking out of there ticked off, I'm going to tell anybody who's going to listen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully. And if I had a great meal,
If
I
they
might tell
offended you deeply enough. Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Depends on the severity of it. But it's easier to say those things, right or wrong. But if I had a great meal, I might call up my buddy Mike and say, oh man, I just had a great meal. And it'll probably end there.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to mean something to you. You're probably going to go try that restaurant out. You're going to believe somebody you trust. But boy, does the bad spread fast.
There was a restaurant in my hometown in New York called Carmela's.
Okay?
People from my high school graduating class are still talking about how wonderful it was.
Yeah.
There was a Sicilian family. They brought their recipes here from Sicily, and they made amazing food, and they treated everybody with warmth, just wonderfully.
Yeah.
You were like their family when you went in there.
Yeah.
And my joke is that's the pizzeria in heaven.
Yeah.
You know, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Just remarkable. So, arguing with customers, almost never a smart thing to
Right.
do. I think you can say something like, "This, I can see this is terribly frustrating. I'm sorry. I don't know how to help you. We have a policy issue here. What else can I do to satisfy you?"
Yeah.
Right? To make it right. And obviously, if they're just playing it and they come back and pull the same crap 3 or 4 times in a row.
Right.
You know, maybe you can't serve them. But you don't want to just be right for the sake of being right.
No. And even if you are right, what's the cost sometimes?
Right.
You look for the repeat offenders, you look for maybe some of those patterns, but far and wide, you know, it's interesting, even when I have or an argument, a disagreement, we'll say, with my wife. And, you know, I've been caught in saying, are you serious? That bothers you? Or something to that tune. We'll come back around after all the dust is settled, and she'll say, that did bother me, and that made me feel bad that you said that. Like, you made me feel crazy for feeling bad. And I'm like, wow. Now, just because it wouldn't bother me doesn't mean it wasn't real to her.
Right.
And the same is true with the customer, whether or not it was a deep infraction.
Right.
It bothered them enough to say something.
Right.
So right or wrong, you make that right. And it's
yeah.
the same concept. That's called relationship and just being decent.
Sure. Or you might even say something like, you know, I don't see where we did something wrong, but I do see that you're very unhappy with our service.
And we don't want you to be unhappy.
I don't want you to be unhappy. Even if
can I
we don't
do?
agree, I want to make you happy.
What can I do?
What can I do?
Yeah,
What's fair?
right.
Tell me
Exactly.
what you think is fair. So offending employees.
Yep.
Every employee in a grocery store, let's say, has 5 family members that shop there out of choice. You piss them off and offend them enough. What happens to your customer base? Oops. So all these geniuses in the corporate office that don't understand that.
And I'll take it a step further, Mike. It's even, I think it can be more destructive than just their small circle. Each employee is an extension of your company. I'm the owner of my company. I work with everyone here, and that's it. I'm not the owner. I pay the bills. I write my name on the check, but I am no better than anybody. And I've learned that from a young age, that I am nothing without them. Every person that's representing this company, we're representing it together. So a dissatisfied employee their family might be shoo away, but think about every interaction they have with a customer in that store. Are they smiling? Are they treating them nicely? How are they acting? Probably not top customer service if they're ticked off at
No,
the boss man.
no.
And how does that represent your company?
They've been poisoned, in a sense, you know.
You think about that.
Yeah. Discouraging problem solving. If somebody comes up to me, if I have a business, and they come up to me and they say, I think I see a problem here and I have a suggestion, or I don't have a suggestion, but I see the harm that's being done. My first thing is going to be, well, is it emergent? Is it about safety? Or are we doing something outrageous that we need to correct immediately? Or can we talk about this in the next 8 hours, right? If it's safety, you talk about it immediately.
Right.
You know, or some horrible customer service, FUBAR behavior, you know, you got to fix that now. But you don't want to discourage problem solving.
No.
You want honesty. Because if your employee is honest, that means they're invested in you,
Absolutely.
right? Well, that says something, you know. Most managers think they're blessed with a kiss ass, and they're not.
Yeah.
Because the kiss ass is always going to kiss up to them for their own personal benefit.
Right.
The kiss ass, they're also the snitch. Ooh, do you see that in medicine? And the nurse managers are generally too self-focused to see the destruction that it causes. But it does. It ruins great great employee relationships,
Sure.
you know. So the kiss ass should be, you know, gently but firmly moved out the door.
Yeah.
Not fired necessarily. Rumors, personal rumors or rumors about the company, that stuff has to be stopped, you know. And if it's permitted, I think it's corrosive,
Yeah.
you know. This is something I call the secret pessimist. It seeds pessimism in others, right? That's very similar to, or maybe you could say it's the same as the rumors, you know. They only talk about what's going to go wrong,
Sure.
not what's going to go right. How
Right.
can we make it right?
Right.
You know. So they bring everybody down with them, you know.
I always have sort of a rule when there is somebody who has an issue,
Right.
you have to at least offer one solution. I'm not saying it has to be a good one,
Right.
but I want you to have thought about it from that angle too, because it's so easy to point and say, well, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Okay. What are your thoughts on making it right? Help me.
Right.
You know, you might have an answer, and you're going to quickly find out, are they just wanting to be a negative pain in the ass, or are they truly identifying a problem and are hoping for a solution? There's two different reasons that someone will identify an issue.
Definitely. Right. Yeah, you can be in control by just spewing negatives.
Right.
Right. So the next one is required rah-rah.
Okay.
So rah-rah, everybody's clapping and saying the little company chant. They don't have a choice. It's forced. And you see that in the big store. The big store, right? You go in there early in the morning, if you happen to need something, you know, your day starts early, you're on your way to Sioux Falls and you stop at the big store, and you're watching one of these floor managers, and they've got everybody whipped into shape, and they have to participate in this rah-rah. I think it's a terrible idea, you know. I would much rather see one compliment and one criticism than no rah-rah.
Yeah.
Rah-rah is forced. People are trapped into it. And I think most people, they do it just to survive. You're going to get punished. You're going to get negative attitude points,
Yeah.
you know. I can't remember. They have like the social point system in communist countries, like in China, is really big for it. Eventually, they've got it so tightly wrapped that it can affect your ability to buy things. Insane, you know? But if a person can't tell you what's broken, and at least begin to elaborate on what might be workable, you're killing their dedication.
Yeah.
If a person is in management and they have disrespect for the employees' ideas, wow.
That's always, almost always, never say never, never say always. That's almost always very destructive. Some of the best ideas that have ever been, that have existed in the company that I'm a part of have not come from me.
Yeah.
Came from somebody else, and then we worked it back and forth and polished it into what was workable for the company, because sometimes the idea in its raw form we couldn't execute without some things for various reasons. But I'll tell you what, people in the company, they are your best asset, and stifling that creativity, that ability, boy, you're crippling yourself as bad as you're crippling them.
There's a fellow I knew in the Boston area. His name was Kinsey. He was a physicist. He ran a lab, I don't know how many people they had there, a couple dozen. Um, and he told me one day, he goes, I think he was from Texas, real tall, about 6'6". He goes, you know, Mike, he goes, my aptitude makes me really smart at creating new theories and formulas. That's what I'm good at. My technicians are much smarter than me at making them work.
Right.
I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's that. What do you think? What does all this, what kind of, I mean, since you're a businessman,
No, it's interesting. I mean, it really, you know, if you were to condense that into a thought or two, it's have respectful relationship. I mean, you think about the interactions with employees, with customers, the word of mouth, the arguing over certain things, the benefits. It all boils down to we're all human beings. We all have gifts. I think your last example was a very good summarization, sort of a story to hang on to there, and that's recognizing your piece, but recognizing it takes a lot of pieces to make it work. And you
Yeah.
break one of those pieces in that, you know, one of those spokes in the chain, and it falls apart.
you break one link and the whole chain's
Right,
useless.
right.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to. Well done. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Reclaiming Timeless Ways. Look forward to seeing you again next time.
Somebody was